On March 15th, 44 BCE, a group of senators gathered around Julius Caesar in the theater of Pompey. They believed they were saving the Roman Republic. Instead, they destroyed it. Caesar's nephew Octavian would rise from the aftermath to become Augustus, Rome's first emperor. Today we're revealing how one day created 500 years of empire. Before we discover how the Ides of March transformed Rome, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We're exploring history's greatest turning points every week. Let's uncover the truth. The Ides of March. March 15th, 44 BCE. Julius Caesar, dictator perpetuo of Rome, entered the theater of Pompey for a Senate meeting. Before the session ended, he would receive 23 stab wounds from approximately 60 senators. The conspirators, led by Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, believed they were defending the Republic. They feared Caesar would crown himself king, a title Romans had despised for 500 years. But their actions achieved the opposite of what they intended. Instead of restoring republican governance, they triggered civil conflict that destroyed the Republic forever. From the chaos emerged Octavian, Caesar's grandnephew and adopted heir. He would become Augustus, the first Roman emperor. Reigning for 41 years, he established an imperial system that lasted until 476 CE in the west and 1453 CE in the east. Today, we're exploring how one dramatic day set Rome on a path to empire. The Republic's final years, Caesar's rise to understand why senators acted. We must understand Caesar's position. By 44 BCE, Julius Caesar had accumulated unprecedented power. He'd conquered Gaul, adding vast territories to Rome. He'd defeated Pompey in civil conflict and emerged as sole ruler. He'd been appointed dictator multiple times. Finally, in February 44 BCE, the Senate named him Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life. This violated Republican tradition. Dictatorships were temporary, limited to 6 months during extreme crises. Caesar also controlled the military personally. He placed his image on coins, a privilege previously reserved for gods and deceased heroes. He bypassed the Senate on major decisions. He personally selected candidates for lower offices. To many senators, Caesar was becoming a monarch in everything but name, and monarchy was anathema to Roman identity. The last Roman king had been expelled in 509 BCE. For nearly 500 years, Rome prided itself on representative government through the Senate. Caesar's behavior threatened this entire system. Senator Cassius Longinus began recruiting conspirators in February 44 BCE. His brother-in-law Marcus Brutus, despite a complicated relationship with Caesar, joined the conspiracy. They recruited approximately 60 senators. All were men of status, around age 40. They believed they were acting as liberators, saving Rome from tyranny. The Ides of March. What happened on the morning of March 15th, Caesar's wife Calpurnia begged him not to attend the Senate. She'd had nightmares about his fate. Various omens supposedly occurred. A soothsayer had warned Caesar to beware the Ides of March, but Caesar dismissed these concerns. He entered the theater of Pompey around midday. This was a temporary Senate meeting place while renovations occurred at the Curia. As Caesar took his seat, the conspirators surrounded him. Tullius Cimber approached, ostensibly to petition for his exiled brother's return. When Caesar refused, Cimber grabbed Caesar's toga. This was the signal. Casca struck first with a dagger, hitting Caesar's neck or shoulder. Caesar fought back initially, stabbing Casca's arm with his stylus. But more attackers closed in. Within moments, Caesar received approximately 23 wounds. Ancient sources claim his final words were kai su teknon in Greek. You too, child? Shakespeare later immortalized this as et tu, brute. But historians debate whether Caesar spoke at all or simply pulled his toga over his face. He collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue. The irony was profound. Caesar had defeated Pompey in civil conflict years earlier. Now he perished beneath his former rival's monument. The conspirators expected celebration. They anticipated grateful Romans thanking them for defending liberty. Instead, they found horror and chaos. The immediate aftermath. Rome in crisis. The Roman people did not react as the conspirators hoped. Caesar had been extremely popular with common citizens. His land reforms, debt relief, and public games had earned widespread support. His military victories had brought glory and treasure to Rome. To ordinary Romans, a group of wealthy senators had eliminated their champion. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal deputy and co-consul, immediately seized the initiative. At Caesar's funeral, Antony delivered a masterful speech. He displayed Caesar's blood-stained toga. He read Caesar's will, which left generous gifts to Roman citizens. The crowd erupted in fury. Riots broke out. The conspirators fled Rome for their lives. But then came a surprise that changed everything. Caesar's will revealed he had posthumously adopted his grandnephew, 18-year-old Gaius Octavius. The young man would now become Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, inheriting Caesar's name, fortune, and political legacy. We know him as Octavian. Octavian was studying in Apollonia when news arrived. Against advice, he immediately sailed to Italy. He claimed his inheritance and demanded recognition as Caesar's heir. Mark Antony initially dismissed him as a boy with no experience. This was Antony's first mistake. The Second Triumvirate. Power divided. For the next 13 years, Rome descended into renewed civil conflict. But these weren't simple battles between two sides. Multiple factions competed for supremacy. Initially, Octavian allied with the Senate against Antony. Then Octavian switched sides, forming the Second Triumvirate with Antony and Marcus Lepidus in 43 BCE. This triumvirate had legal authority, unlike Caesar's informal First Triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus. The Second Triumvirate divided Roman territories among themselves. They also initiated brutal purges. Thousands of political enemies were eliminated. The famous orator Cicero, who had criticized both Caesar and Antony, was executed. His head and hands were displayed in the Roman Forum. This was not a restoration of republican values. It was autocratic rule by 3 men instead of 1. In 42 BCE, at the Battle of Philippi in Greece, Octavian and Antony defeated the forces of Brutus and Cassius. Both conspirator leaders chose to end their lives rather than face capture. The republican cause perished with them. Lepidus was gradually sidelined. By 36 BCE, he held no real power. This left Octavian and Antony as co-rulers. But their relationship deteriorated. Antony governed the eastern provinces from Alexandria. He formed a political and romantic alliance with Cleopatra VII, Egypt's Ptolemaic queen. Octavian presented himself as the defender of traditional Roman values. He portrayed Antony as corrupted by Eastern luxury and foreign influence. In 31 BCE, their forces met at the Battle of Actium off the coast of Greece. Octavian's navy, commanded by Marcus Agrippa, won decisively. Antony and Cleopatra fled to Alexandria. Pursued by Octavian's forces, they both chose to end their lives in 30 BCE. Octavian stood alone, the sole master of the Roman world. The birth of empire. Augustus creates a new Rome. Octavian faced a delicate challenge. He controlled Rome absolutely. But Romans still despised monarchy. The conspiracy against Caesar proved that seizing dictatorial power could be lethal. Octavian needed to appear as a restorer of the Republic while actually creating an autocracy. He accomplished this through political genius. In 27 BCE, Octavian theatrically returned power to the Senate and people of Rome. The Senate, grateful and intimidated, immediately granted him extraordinary honors. They gave him the title Augustus, meaning the revered one. This elevated him almost to divine status without calling him king. They granted him Imperium Maius, supreme authority over all provinces. They made him princeps, first citizen. He commanded all Roman legions. He controlled foreign policy. He appointed governors. Yet officially, he wasn't a monarch. He presented himself as merely the leading citizen serving the Republic. The Senate continued to meet. Magistrates were still elected. But everyone understood where real power lay. Augustus carefully managed this facade for over 4 decades. He shared power symbolically with the Senate while controlling everything substantively. He provided stability after a century of civil conflicts. He reformed the military. creating a professional standing army with regular pay and pensions. He reformed taxation, making it more systematic and predictable. He initiated massive public building projects. "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble," he reportedly said. He promoted traditional Roman values while subtly undermining republican institutions. Most importantly, he established succession. When Augustus passed in 14 CE, his stepson Tiberius succeeded him. This created precedent. The position could be inherited. An imperial dynasty had begun. The irony. The conspirators' legacy. Here's the supreme irony of the Ides of March. The senators who eliminated Caesar claimed to be defending the Republic. They believed one man concentrating power threatened Roman liberty. Yet their actions directly created the imperial system they feared. Without the events of March 15, 44 BCE, history might have unfolded differently. Perhaps Caesar would have ruled until natural causes ended his life. Perhaps the Senate would have gradually reasserted authority. Perhaps the Republic could have adapted rather than collapsed. Instead, the conspirators triggered chaos. Chaos that allowed Augustus to reshape Rome completely. Barry Strauss, author of 10 Caesars, captured this perfectly. They thought they were liberating Rome, but instead, they put the nail in the coffin of the Free Republic. The Roman Empire that emerged lasted approximately 500 years in the West until 476 CE. In the East, as the Byzantine Empire, it endured until 1453 CE. That's over 1,400 years of imperial rule, all traceable to one day in 44 BCE. Augustus himself never forgot his debt to Caesar. He promoted Caesar's deification, establishing temples in his honor. He presented himself as Caesar's true heir, completing his adopted father's work. The title Caesar became synonymous with imperial rule. It evolved into Kaiser in German and Tsar in Russian. For millennia, the name Caesar represented supreme authority. The lesson: unintended consequences. The Ides of March teaches a profound lesson about political action. Intentions don't guarantee outcomes. The conspirators acted from genuine belief in republican ideals. Many were honorable men who sincerely feared tyranny. But they misunderstood the political moment. Rome had changed. The old republican system, designed for a city-state, couldn't govern a vast Mediterranean empire. The Republic had been failing for decades before Caesar. Wealth inequality, political gridlock, and conflicts had weakened it throughout the 1st century BCE. Caesar's rise was symptom, not cause. Eliminating him didn't address underlying problems. It created a power vacuum that someone had to fill. Augustus filled it more completely than Caesar ever had. March 15, 44 BCE changed Rome forever. Julius Caesar entered the theater of Pompey as dictator for life. He left as a martyr whose name would define an empire. The senators who acted believed they were saving the Republic. Instead, they destroyed it. From the chaos emerged Augustus, who created an imperial system more absolute than anything Caesar achieved. The Republic, which had governed Rome for nearly 500 years, ended. The empire, which would endure for 500 more in the West and over 1,400 years in the East, began, one day. 23 stab wounds, and Rome would never be the same. The conspirators wanted to stop one man from becoming king. They inadvertently created emperors. If this changed how you see the Ides of March, hit that like button. Subscribe for more discoveries about history's greatest turning points. If you could go back and advise the conspirators on March 14, 44 BCE, what would you tell them? Would you warn them of the consequences or encourage them to act? And why? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read everyone and love discussing with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.